Can Minato save his son Naruto, or will Madara Uchiha throw a wrench into their plans? Find out in my review of Naruto chapter 664. Due to some icy-ass inclement weather, Christian could not make it for today's review, but we were able to talk about this week's chapter on the phone, so his opinions will definitely be in this video. It's a shame he couldn't be here, because this week's chapter of Naruto was actually pretty interesting. It had three really cool elements to it: mystery, comedy, and action. And they all worked really, really well together. First, let's go ahead and talk about this Sasuke thing, because obviously it's the biggest thing a lot of people are talking about. It's very mysterious, and everybody's theories are running wild. At the end of last week's chapter, this mysterious barefooted person appeared in front of Sasuke, and me and Christian were trying to figure out who's barefoot, who's been barefoot this whole time. The only guess we could come up with was Jugo, and a lot of people have had some pretty crazy theories. In fact, 90% of the comments from last week's chapter review were, "It's Kabuto." Come on, guys, you know it's Kabuto. It's going to be Kabuto, guys. But it looks like in this week's chapter, it might not actually end up being Kabuto, and the only reason I even say that is because the scene where Orochimaru and Karen are running towards Sasuke, Orochimaru actually asks Karen, "Hey, can you recognize that chakra?" And she has no idea who it belongs to. And I would imagine that a person like Karen, who works with Orochimaru and that entire group, would eventually run into Kabuto at least once. Now, we really haven't seen them interact too much, if at all, throughout this entire series. However, it still brings up the interesting prospect of who this character could be. It's still sort of really up in the air right now, and they don't seem to want to tell us anything yet. And I do find that kind of intriguing. Another thing about this week's chapter is, it seems like Rocklee and his ninja pals decided to crash this week's chapter, because there's a lot of goofiness from them this week, particularly stuck right in the middle. But it actually is going to be important, because I think it's going to involve the defeat of Madara, and possibly how Naruto is going to get his powers back. Because before this funny scene starts, Madara is flying over the battlefield, and he says that he's feeling heavy, so he decides to spit out the pot and gourd. Stupid decision on his part, but I'll get to that later. So, both the pot and the gourd end up smacking both Rocklee and Guy in the back of the head. And the scene is very funny. It's got those typical Kishimoto big eyes and big teeth, angry-looking faces, which are always pretty damn funny. But I think one of my favorite things about this scene is the fact that Tenten is commenting about this, and she's like, "Neji, why did you have to leave me here with these two people?" You know what, Tenten? I'm going to tell you why Neji isn't going to be able to help you. That's because he's dead. He has ceased to be. He's passed on. He's a stiff. He's bereft of life. If he hadn't been impaled by giant, massive, spiky logs, he'd be pushing up the daisies. Neji is an ex-person. Monty Python reference. The last bit of this week's chapter is getting to see Sakura and Gaara encounter Kakashi and Minato as they are going up against Black Zetsu and Obito. And pretty much everybody was thinking that Minato was going to end up just giving his other half of the Kyuubi chakra to Naruto, and that's actually what he tries to do. However, there is another massive plot twist here. Apparently, Black Zetsu is able to send a portion of his body through the ground, which manages to steal the other half of Kurama's chakra, and that's when Madara decides to show up on the battlefield, where he's getting ready to reclaim his Rinnegan Eye, as well as probably the other half of this chakra. So things are not looking good for these guys, but this is what brings us back to the gourd and the pot. These are going to be the Deus Ex Machina for this arc, I guarantee it. This is going to be the reason how Madara is either defeated, sealed away, or how Naruto is going to get his powers back, because we have to remember, Kinkaku and Ginkaku's chakra is still in here, and thus they could still give it to Naruto. It's still very, very important, and I really think Madara is stupid for doing this. Why did he even spit them up in the first place? He said it was heavy, it was making him feel strange. Obito seemed to be doing pretty fine when he had those things inside of him, but Madara can't handle this? You're telling me Madara Uchiha, the guy who summons meteors and makes clones of 10 different Susanoo, can't handle this? I call bullshit on that. But at the same time, it's probably going to be the reason he's defeated. However, I hope it's not. I hope it's mostly just a way of being able to help Naruto. And I still don't know how they're going to help Sasuke, because he's in complete Strugglesville right now, and he's being accosted by some weird barefooted person that nobody seems to know who they are. So it's just really up in the air at the moment. All I know is this week's chapter was pretty exciting. It had a lot of really interesting elements. Still, it's just glad to see that the author remembers that Rocklee exists, because he's one of my favorite characters in the entire show. And he really still hasn't had a proper fight, like, since the very first half of the series. And I was kind of hoping that maybe he would get to do something. And he has had some cool moments throughout this arc, don't get me wrong. Like, I love the moment where Rocklee, like, kicked right through Edo Tensei Madara in the scene where he was fighting against all of the weird, like, 10 tails monsters and everything, but I still wanted a little bit more from that character. Maybe it's just incredibly wishful thinking on my point. But otherwise, pretty cool chapter, had some pretty nice artwork, and like I said, it was just a mixture of 3 different things which made this chapter seem very interesting, and it didn't go by quickly in the least at all. It's pretty much the exact opposite of Bleach this week, which seems like I read it in about 2 seconds. Naruto was very wordy this week, but still very interesting, and even the background scene with Minato and Kushina was still very important, because it just reinforced the fact that, you know, Minato will do anything to protect his son, and I do like the fact, and Christian even mentioned this to me too, that things are just not going well at all for Naruto and Sasuke. This seems like the point of the series where things are going to start looking up for them, and maybe they're going to get like a big power-up, but they're completely getting shit on here. They've been dead for the last couple of chapters, which is still kind of strange to me, and it doesn't seem like things are going to be working out for them like fast anytime soon, especially because Madara is about to get his eye back, and he's about to get a big power-up, and he's probably going to go ahead and try to, you know, activate the whole Eye of the Moon plan, which who knows how that's going to go down. So Christian and I have decided to give this week's chapter an 8 out of 10. It's still worth your time. It's got a lot of really interesting elements. The mystery of who it is who's going to be helping or hurting Sasuke, and this whole Gordon Pot thing and Madara becoming really powerful again. It's a really nice twist on this final arc of the series. So if you are following it, make sure and check it out. It's pretty exciting. So if you guys had a chance to check out this week's chapter of Naruto, it's time to let me know what you thought about it with your comments below. Remember guys, before you leave, make sure and hit that like button. Give this video a thumbs up. It's one of the easiest ways to support our videos. And you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So, I'll see you next time. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.